Was a kid, there was a place. Was a kid, there was a place.
Bueno, bien. Hola chicos y chicas. We're starting our second webinar. Okay, everything seems to be working fine on my end, but let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me and see me. If you can hear me and see me, go ahead and type in the chat on YouTube or on the website. I'll be checking both. Please type, if you don't mind, hola desde, see? In my case, hola desde Roswell, Georgia, see? So if you guys can hear me, just type hola desde and let me know where you're calling from. I know that not all of you were going to be able to come today. I got many messages saying that you couldn't make it, but don't worry, the webinar still happens every 2 weeks, and I will be putting the recording up on the platform, up on Spanish Hacks. So okay, bien. I see some of you guys can hear me, so we're just gonna keep on going. I believe the latency should be better this time. And are you guys also able to see the screen? Are you able to see the hola desde? I believe you can. If you can't, please let me know. I will be checking the messages a little bit more this time to try to make it more interactive. See? So, bien. I'm happy you guys can hear me and see me. The plan for today is going to be, we're going to make it much shorter because as we saw the last time, we can only cover so much in 1 hour. So I'm going to try to keep it a little more concise. If we have time for some of the other topics, we'll cover them today. And whatever we couldn't cover from your suggestions this past week and the week before, we're going to cover them at some other time. So don't worry. So, bien, entonces el plan para hoy, the plan for today, saber versus conocer, suggested by Carly and Tony. And then if we have some time, we're going to do some asking food at a restaurant, sí, pedir comida en un restaurante. So thank you for that, Shelly. If you're taking Spanish hacks and you know that we work on trying to find the origins of the words, the roots of the words that are common in Spanish and English, you'll see the word pedir in there, and you will know that that would be to ask for something, and you can think of a petition. See, it shares a root with petición. You guys might remember that from the webinar last week or from the course, right? Tion becomes ción, and pedir comes from the Latin verb petire, which shares a root with a petition. See, so you're asking for food, comida, comer. Remember, we eat things that are comestible, see, things that are edible, comestibles. Pedir comida en un restaurante. And there you can see that I highlighted the hack NTE, right? Because NT, right, like in restaurant, becomes NTE, like in restaurante. See? Bien. Okay, let me check the chat. Everybody seems to be fine. So we're going to cover today, as I mentioned, saber versus conocer. But before we move on, please do like and subscribe. If you haven't done so yet, like this video and subscribe to the channel. And once you're done, or if you have already subscribed, please type listo, which means ready. Okay? Listo. Ready. Or if you think of words like to enlist, see? That's another root that is shared. See? Enlistarse. Bien, bien, bien. I see Antonio. Muy bien. Tony. Antonio. Tony requested that saber versus conocer. I am happy that he's here. And okay, we're going to keep on going. As I mentioned, we won't have too many people today because I heard from many of you that you won't be able to attend. Remember that we're starting Spanish Hacks with a very close group of people. So just because I want to make sure that I take care of you guys. I want to make sure that I take care of my current students. You know, we can grow it later. I just rather do it slowly, but I'd rather everything work than do it fast to try to get a bunch of people to sign up and then have everything be a disaster. So, okay, great. We're going to move on then with the topic that Tony suggested, and that topic is saber versus conocer. See? So the verbs saber and conocer in English, they translate as the verb to know. So that can be a little tricky in English because you might believe that they're interchangeable, and they're not. Now, I am not going to make this complicated. I am going to use the same method that I used with all of these clients. And this is the way that people from all executives from all of those companies, many of you guys are here or are participating in Spanish Hacks one way or another. This is the way I teach you guys this stuff. The people who have had my lessons and have used my curriculums. See, and you know there are two different ways of teaching saber versus conocer. As I mentioned, both of them translate in English as the verb to know. But if I taught you like the way that most textbooks teach it, or the way you'll see it online, you know, you'll see a bunch of lists. We're not robots, and right? Well, what is this? Heart knowledge, relational knowledge, undefinable familiarity. I don't even know what any of that means. And like, you can even find a cheat sheet, and like, you know, say it's a cheat sheet, but that doesn't even look like much of a cheat sheet to me, right? It's still a bunch of information. We are not robots. We're not going to remember any of this stuff. So that's one way I could teach you. Of course, I'm not going to teach you that way. I'm going to teach you the Spanish Hacks way, which is by looking at the origins of words, by remembering that both Spanish and English come from Latin, yeah, or are derived from Latin in some way, and understanding the roots helps us connect with other words that we know. Like I mentioned in the previous example, pedir with petition. So if we look at the verb saber, see, look at that B in there that I highlighted. That B in there in saber, I highlighted it because the B and the P are close, and it's common that the B will come from a word that had a P in it. The P is the Latin verb sapere, which also shares the root with the word sapiens, or in Latin, sapiens, or at least the way we believe Latin is pronounced. See? So if you know like the sapiens, like a Homo sapiens, you would use saber, more on that later. But if you're cognizing, that's an English word, to cognize, if you're perceiving or becoming aware of something, right? Then you would use the verb conocer. See? You might be more familiar with cognizing again. Re means again. Reconocer. Reconocer. Recognize. It's when you identify something or someone from having encountered them before. See? Reconocer. Having encountered them before. So you're cognizing again. So you're more familiar probably with the verb to recognize. See? So what we're going to do, see, is we're going to look at some examples, but talking more about reconocer, cognizing again, this is what would happen when you see a person you already know, right? They're giving each other a hug because they know each other. Forget about that free hug sign. I'm just finding it now. But right, they know each other, so they're recognizing each other and they're happy to see each other. In order to cognize someone again, you need to have cognized them before. In those cases, we would use the verb conocer. Now, if you were to use a list like the ones before and you think about like, okay, facts, words, or something would be saber, that doesn't always work that way. Think of the way I taught you. You're recognizing because you cognized them before, you became aware of them before, you became aware of their existence before when you met them for the first time, right? And if you can cognize facts as well, or you can cognize words as well if you are just cognizing them, if you don't know what they mean, right? Think of buena hamburguesa, good burger. Oh yeah, I know some of these words, right? When Ed is looking at that sheet, he's pretending to be understanding what he's reading, and as a matter of fact, he doesn't understand it because he doesn't know those words. He doesn't know them using saber, like a sapiens. He knows them because he recognizes, right? He cognizes them. It's about cognition, yeah? Perceiving, conocer, see? And it's not the same as knowledge, which is what you would have if you use the verb saber, see? If you know it as a sapiens. Remember sapiens, because I use sapiens because it shares the same root as sapere, which is the verb that became in Spanish saber, see? Does this make sense so far? Let me know in the chat. Does that make sense? See, we don't have too many viewers today because, as I mentioned, most of you guys enrolled in the course. You guys told me that you wouldn't be able to watch it live, that you will be able to watch it later. Hopefully, you guys can still come because you're going to miss the chance to ask questions if you're not here. But I understand, life gets busy. And also, we don't have that large of a group right now, so it's likely that these things will happen. So hopefully that makes sense so far. To make more sense of it, what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. We're going to play a game of saber versus conocer. So we're going to think of saber as a sapiens and conocer as a doggy. See? So the question we're asking when we're asking if it's saber or conocer is whether or not it's a sapiens or a doggy. Notice that I don't even care how I'm spelling doggy because it doesn't matter. We're just able to recognize it. We don't know as a Homo sapiens. Does that make sense? It's a game of saber versus conocer, or a game of Homo sapiens versus doggy. See? So what do I mean by that? Well, the doggy knows. El perro conoce. Remember, we're using conocer, right? Because it's the way that the dog knows, the way he cognizes the tree. He knows the tree, he knows the man. Remember, from Spanish hacks, we have the a in there because the object of this verb is a person. El perrito conoce al hombre, see? Or he knows the music, see? Meaning he recognizes it or he cognizes it, see? Whether or not he's doing it for the first time, just doing it in general, or doing it again, see? El perrito conoce, pero el perrito no es un Homo sapiens. The dog is not a Homo sapiens, so the dog doesn't know. See? He knows, but he doesn't know. El perrito conoce, pero no conoce. ¿Sí? El perrito no conoce el árbol, cómo plantar un árbol, no sabe cómo plantar un árbol, no sabe hablar y no sabe tocar el piano. ¿Sí? El perrito conoce, pero el perrito no sabe. He knows, but he doesn't know, right? He needs to be a Homo sapiens to know how to plant a tree. El perrito no sabe plantar un árbol, no sabe hablar, y no sabe tocar el piano. Is that making sense so far? See if somebody can give me a C. Again, we don't have that many people, so I'm just going to keep on going. But I hope that that's making sense so far. See? So if you're cognizing like a dog, you're using conocer. Now, if you're doing like a Homo sapiens, see, then you would be able to know saber. El Homo sapiens sabe plantar un árbol, to plant a tree, hablar, sí, y el Homo sapiens sabe tocar el piano. Now, if you're watching a movie with a talking dog, well, in that case, of course, you would use saber, but that's because you're using a type of saber the way a sapiens knows, okay? You will see examples of dogs who do all sorts of things, but the idea is that if you're doing it as a normal dog, as a regular dog, as most dogs, see, you'll be using saber. So now, if you were inside Spanish Hacks and you were looking at this, what you would have, see, it's not a bunch of cheat sheets and lists of things, this versus that, but the ways that come from Latin and the ways understanding the roots of words, just like we did just now. Saber, when we know as a sapiens, conocer, when we cognize, as a dog, or as somebody who's not a sapiens. ¿Sí? Saber, como un Homo sapiens, conocer, como un perro. ¿Sí? Now there are some examples of dogs who know how to play sports or do all sorts of things that humans normally do. In that case, you would use the verb saber, but as I was mentioning, in general, for a dog, anything that a dog would know, you would use conocer. See? Knowing the tree, knowing the person. Okay? If you were inside Spanish Hacks, as I mentioned, you would get to practice all of this stuff. See? And get to solidify, get to cement all of those facts, all that knowledge. See, if you're using Spanish Hacks, what you would do is saber. See, besides practicing inside the course, you would practice it in the forums inside the course, and you would practice it outside the course in our Facebook groups. See, so guys, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I'm directing this question primarily to the people who are not being able to attend in person, which is most of you enrolled in the course. If you have questions, please send me an email to diego@spanishhacks.life, and I'll be happy to address them, either by replying to that email, as I have been doing it with many of these emails. If it's related to this week's topics, I will reply to you via email and probably add some extra note to the Spanish Hacks lesson. But if it's something that we might cover during a following week, during a following webinar, then I will address it then. And if you're not yet signed up for the course, please use the code SABER. See, I'm going to leave it open for this weekend and get 20% off any product, whether it is one of the small booklets or the pronunciation course, or the flagship course, or whether it's a month by month subscription. Any of those programs or products, you can use the code SABER to get 20% off your purchase. And finally, if you would like to take any private lessons with me, as many of you already do, please just email me at diego@spanishhacks.life. We do have a calendar at Spanish Hacks, but since you guys know me, since I'm sharing this with a small group of people, please just send me an email. And if you're watching this later, you will probably see the link on Spanish Hacks, or you can just send me an email there. I'll probably get to it sooner or later, and we can do private lessons. So, do you guys have any questions about saber and conocer? You take a quick look at the chat right there. Okay, so I'm gonna try and see if anybody has any questions. See, okay, any questions? Okay, perfecto. As I mentioned, a very small group today. Let me check also. I'm gonna check the Spanish Hacks chat. Okay, nothing there. That's fine because, as I mentioned, yeah, we still can't. It's weird. It's working for me. We'll work some out with that. See, Entonces, bien. Okay, so if you guys are ready, we're gonna do one more lesson that you guys requested. Even though the person who requested it couldn't come here, the person who requested it was Shelly. Shelly, I hope you're getting to look at this. And what we're gonna look at is this video to we're gonna look at this video about ordering food at a restaurant. Okay, so again, sorry, let me fix my camera. Go. Okay. You guys should be able to see the Yo Quiero Tacos Grandes lesson. Okay, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it as well. So, okay, here we go. Yo quiero tacos grandes. I want big tacos. Big tacos. So the commercial. So for my US American students, do you remember the commercial with the cute little dog who wanted a taco? For the purposes of our class, we're going to call that famous taco chain Tacos Grandes. Big tacos. So the commercial went something like this. It was a little chihuahua who was running through the streets of Mexico, and then he sees a guy eating a taco. He looks at the guy and he says, Yo quiero tacos grandes. I want is yo quiero. This is an important lesson, not only to teach you how to say things that you want, but because it's going to teach you about stem changing verbs. Stem changing verbs are verbs in which the stem, which is everything in the verb except the ending, is going to change when we conjugate them. The reason for this is that the vowels got deformed, and then when the language started being written, people would write it the way it sounded. So instead of quiero, it would be quiero, quiero. People started writing with an I. So instead of quiero, like querer, it became quiero. That is a common stem change, the E becoming IE. Now the good news is that all the endings that you learned before are going to stay the same. The only thing that changes is the stem. So for yo, we put an O, quiero. Remember that the third person singular ends just in an E. Instead of quiere, it would be quiere. We add an S for tú, quieres. And we add an N for ellos and ustedes, quieren. Nosotros, however, is going to be queremos. Notice how it doesn't have that change of stem. If you wonder why, the quick answer is that the first syllables to get deformed are the stressed ones. Querer, quiero, quiero. Queremos is not stressed in the same way. Quiero versus queremos. Since the stress wasn't in this first syllable, that syllable didn't get deformed. For now, just remember that anytime we have a verb that has a stem change, it's not going to keep that change of stem with nosotros. So for nosotros, we'll go back to the original stem. Make sure you take a good look at the stem changing verbs worksheet. That way you can practice using those verbs. Now going back to querer, we're going to do a little exercise. Make a list of 5 things that you want using the structure quiero plus object, or quiero plus the verb in the infinitive. Por ejemplo, for example, quiero una pizza, o quiero jugar tenis. Okay, guys, as always, the way you'll get better at this is if you practice it. Hopefully that made sense. That was the introduction to the stem changing verbs. I could teach you to repeat it like a parrot, right? And you can still do that, right? Like, you know, from Quiero Taco Bell, right? But I want you to understand that what happens is that the words get deformed, right? Because we we started writing the language based off what people heard and not the other way around. Okay, even when you think of Latin, Latin would be a little more strict, but that's not the way people would speak it, right? Like regular folk, okay, would speak it. Um, so with these vulgar Latin languages, what happens is that we look at the way it's pronounced for the most part, and we try to write it that way. So it happens that what happens is that lots of the time when you're stressing a syllable, the syllable gets deformed, and that's why it would be quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, quieren. That is why the nosotros form or the vosotros form as well, if you're speaking Spanish from Spain, would not take that stem change. See? That said, we're going to go ahead and move on to ordering food at a restaurant. Again, the reason I don't teach you guys to repeat things like parrots is because I want you to understand and I want you to be able to remember and I want you to be confident when using the language. Let's see if I have any comments. Okay. No, todo bien. Questions? No. Perfecto. Bueno, bien. So let's move on to the lesson about ordering food at the restaurant. See? And if you were taking Spanish hacks, see, you would be getting now a power-up sheet. Let me show you. We're getting a power-up sheet with lots of different foods, okay? This is available at Spanish Hacks, or if you want to be a cheat and steal the course, just take a screenshot or something. See, I don't really care. I care for you guys learning, but I really hope that if you're enjoying, and I know that if you're enjoying what you're seeing and you really want to learn Spanish, you'll be joining Spanish Hacks. Now, I'll teach you in some cases, right, how stuff like huevos revueltos, think of revolved eggs, see, because that's what I'm doing when I'm stirring them. And I go through some of these in the pep talks and lessons where I grab the sheet and I actually review the stuff with you. But the reason this is more of a list of food is because I want you to have it handy and be able to order the food when you practice with the waiter, which is what we're going to do next. And that is the scenario. This is what Shelly was asking for. Okay? So in this scenario, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be ordering food at a restaurant. All right. Here we go. With you. Okay, you guys should be able to see it. Okay, here we go. Ordering food at a restaurant. Okay, so let's do a little restaurant scenario. Remember, you'll get better at this only if you practice. So I hope you'll do this scenario. I hope you practice in the forums. And I'll hope you also actually go to a restaurant and practice the verb querer in there. Remember again, the verb querer means to want. Let's get started. Bienvenidos a la Casita Roja, nuestro restaurante. ¿Ustedes tienen una reservación? Sí, tenemos una reservación para 2 personas. ¿A nombre de quién? A nombre de Diego.
Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a la Casita Roja. ¿Qué desean beber?
Yo quiero una Coca-Cola, por favor.
Muy bien, una Coca-Cola. ¿Y usted?
Now it's your turn.
Excelente. Regreso en un minuto.
Great, he's got it. Mientras esperamos, miramos el menú. El menú. 1. Ensalada de atún. 2. Hamburguesa con papas fritas. 3. Pollo a la parrilla con puré. 4. Carne asada con vegetales. Remember, carne is feminine, therefore it's asada and not asado. 5. Sopa de calabaza. 6. Espagueti con salsa de tomates. For the word parrilla, think of the word grill and think of pagrilla, which is a vulgar Latin word. Okay, I'll stop it there for a second so you guys can think of what you want to order. Sí, ensalada de atún, tuna salad, hamburguesa con papas fritas, hamburger with french fries, pollo a la parrilla con puré. Remember to think of the word pagrilla, which is the vulgar Latin word for grill. Carne asada con vegetales, sí, roasted meat with vegetables. Sopa de calabaza. Remember the city in California, Calabasas? See, that means pumpkins. Pumpkin soup. And finally, espagueti con salsa de tomates. That's a Spanish spelling of spaghetti. Remember that the GUE is pronounced like the GHE that you have in spaghetti in Italian. Que. Likewise, remember that in Spanish we don't like an S followed by a consonant, so we wouldn't say spaghetti, we would say espagueti. See? Espagueti con salsa de tomates. You might also hear the word fideos, which means. See? All right, so if you guys are ready to order, I think the waiter's coming back.
Muy bien, aquí están las bebidas. ¿Saben qué quieren comer?
Go ahead and tell him your order.
Muy bien. ¿Algo más?
¿Algo más? Would you like anything else? Why don't we ask him where the bathroom is? See if you can figure that out. Perdón, ¿dónde está el baño?
Aquí está la comida. ¿Desean algo más? Buen provecho.
Alright, so we had dinner, we've used the restroom if we needed to. Let's go ahead and get the bill. Let's get the check. Do you know how to ask for the check in Spanish? La cuenta, por favor. Repeat the scenario a bunch of different times, ordering different items, and trying to think of things that may come up. After you repeated the scenario, please consider practicing this in real life. That's where the real fun is. Practicing your Spanish in real life and going to a restaurant and ordering food in Spanish. It is a very empowering experience. I know it because I've done it with my students, and they all want to repeat it, they all like it, and they all feel like they're finally speaking Spanish, which is the reason you decided to take on this course. Hopefully you had fun with this scenario, and hopefully we'll keep doing all the other scenarios and practicing with the rest of the students. Okay, guys. Hopefully you found that helpful. And as I mentioned, an odd time that this course was released during a pandemic, but normally this would be a good time to go out and practice ordering food. Doing it in real life. Many of my students and I would do that around this time in their Spanish training. Would go to a restaurant, and it's a whole lot easier than you think it is, right? You might get nervous, you might think you're gonna freeze or something, but the restaurant itself is the same experience that you're used to having and speaking in English, right? So most of the communication will be nonverbal, anyways, will be contextual, and you're still going to have the menu with all the items. So it's not something hard to do in real life, and this is the point of doing it. Yeah, this is the point of speaking Spanish, practicing Spanish. It's not doing it on the computer. It's not like winning some argument on Facebook or something. It's about you being able to use the language to communicate with other people and get things done. Get things done like going to a restaurant and ordering food and having a good time with your friends. You can use it to impress your friends too. Yeah. So I hope you'll be practicing this in real life outside of the scenarios. But remember, one of the good things about Spanish Hacks is that before you go out, you can actually practice speaking with other students in the Facebook group, and you can also practice in many other scenarios like this one. We practiced this one today, which is from Spanish Hacks, because Shelly had requested that we do it. Shelly is a student in Spanish Hacks, so she has access to it. But talking about that, there are some things that I guess I could bring up. Is, for example, remembering how to say la cuenta. We're talking about the count, right? You count how much money it costs because you counted all the items, how many things you ordered, how much they cost, and then you, after doing that, you get a tally, you get a result, right? All of that is la cuenta, it's the count. That's what you're doing. That's how you can remember how to ask for the check or for the bill. See? And then the other thing to remember that I mentioned to my students, and I mentioned inside the Spanish Hacks course as well, is don't try to overcomplicate it when you're ordering, when you're interacting with other people. Keep it simple. See? Just say quiero and say the thing that you want. Don't try to use any other weird tense to try to sound more polite or anything like that, because we also don't even do that in Spanish. Seriously. We should just say, si quiero un, whatever, quiero un pollo con papas. I want a chicken with potatoes. Whatever I order. See? You want to keep it simple, and the thing that matters always is to communicate. That's why we do Spanish Hacks. We know with Spanish Hacks, we're going to be wrong maybe 10% of the time with the hacks, give or take. But when we say wrong, something that might change is that you might have an extra U added in there, like like you have in querer. It's not that I won't ever teach you the wrong way of doing it, but lots of the time I just show you the hack so you can just do it on your own. And you don't have to be memorizing long lists of words. Even today, when we did saber and conocer, think of sapiens, think of sapere, that's the way you know, and think of cognition. And then, like any other, like you cognize certain items, and like a dog can cognize them. And there are cases when a dog can act like a Homo sapiens and can know how to play volleyball, like we saw in the previous video. Remember? But the idea is that this is the way that a Spanish speaker will think. Yeah, we're also not 100% correct 100% of the time. See, what has yielded the best results with my students, with all the people that I've taught, needed to speak Spanish because they needed it for work, because they needed to get it done and they didn't need to freeze, right? Because remember, it's much easier to do it in a safe environment like Spanish Hacks, where with the video you play it 20 times and then you practice with people on Facebook, right? And it's moderated by me and other instructors. It's a lot easier to do it that way, see, than it is to do it when you're abroad and you're trying to communicate, and it's a bit of it feels like a life or death situation, ordering the food at the restaurant. So remember to use what you know, hack it, use the similarities between the languages, and at the very least, you're going to get a plate of food that's going to be, it should be what you ordered. And the other thing I mentioned is it's going to be in the menu either way, so you cannot get it too wrong. See, and if you want to get something different from the menu, you probably have enough time to practice it and even grab your phone and look it up. See, uh, um, but either way, hopefully with the word list that I gave you, the way to hack them, and the way we review them after every class in Spanish hacks, I think you'll be good. Yeah, and okay, let me take a quick look at the chat, see what you guys are saying, asking. I appreciate you guys staying. My short crowd today. Um, I thought actually about canceling the webinar because majority I got at least like 10, 12 messages from who couldn't come, and and then there are the people who just won't come because how life happens, and it happens last minute, and you don't owe me anything. You don't have to let me know about it. I will still try to hold these every week, but I was already aware of the smaller crowd, and I appreciate you guys reaching out to let me know that. Do you guys have any questions before we go? Please do remember that we have the code SABER if you're not in any of the people here are enrolled in the flagship course. But if you guys are not enrolled, if you're watching a replay and you're part of the Spanish Hacks community, please do send me no, don't send me an email. Send me an email if you want some private lessons, but use the code SABER with any of the products, including this little booklet that I have right here. See? This booklet is available on SpanishHacks.live. The code is applicable to these products as well. See, and I have many copies of this booklet. With this booklet, in under 30 minutes, depending on how fast you read, see, you can learn 8,500 words by hacking them. See, become 85% fluent. It's a good bedtime read because those who know me know that we practice in our sleep, right? When we're sleeping, the brain is categorizing all the information we process during the day. So if you do it at the very end of the day, your brain is going to still keep firing up, and it'll help you internalize it. I know I've said this a million times, but that's what Spanish Hacks is about. It's about internalizing it. It's about making it your own so that you never freeze when somebody asks you. See? But you get, besides all the different hacks that you have in here, that also tell you the result, right? So this hack gave us 1,300 words. Then you have a sheet where you can actually write down the words that you can think of that use that hack, and get to practice them. See, this book is also available in SpanishHacks.live, and I have some copies of the book. So for people who show up live next week, I'm going to be gifting. I haven't decided how many copies of the book I'm going to give away, but we'll decide depending on how many people come. I'll send you guys an email letting you know a little more information about that. But I would like to send you guys some copies of the book. And lastly, don't forget that we're going to do this webinar again. Well, not this exact same webinar, but we're going to do another webinar again in 2 weeks. For that webinar, I expect to cover articles and prepositions, which we have a little bit of time, and I could cover it today, but none of the people who requested it are here, so I think it's better if we do it live. But remember, just basically, because I always explain it, with articles, I think the one thing that stumps, I was planning to explain this in further detail, and this is what I'm going to do in 2 weeks. But talking about what an article is, and how you can think about it in English, and how you can think about definite articles in English. That's the articles that we have in Spanish, definite, which means that there are things that have already been defined. When something has already been defined, like this book, right? This would be el libro. In that case, I would be using the article, whether I'm using it as a subject or as an object. The other thing that happens in Spanish is that when you're using when you're using a common noun, that is a thing, it's not a proper name, see? A thing or a place. If I am using a common noun as a subject, I need to have an article. Tony who's here, he had asked about the verb gustar. I don't want to get into gustar just yet because we're starting to cover, we're going to be increasing difficulty. But with gustar, what happens is that since I'm talking about a verb that gusts me, that does the opposite of disgust me, right? It's not like in English where if I like something, I am the subject. In Spanish, if I like something, the thing that I like is the subject. and I say that that thing gusts me. See? So if I'm talking about me liking water, and I say that I like water, I'm not going to say Diego likes water, or sorry, I like water. I'm going to say water gusts Diego, or water gusts me. If I say water gusts Diego, and I put Diego first, and I put that a Diego le gusta, see, it gusts him, the water, see, I'm going to put a Diego le gusta el agua. See, it's different from I like water. As I mentioned, I'm going to explain this in further detail next week, but that's a little bit of a preview. And also about prepositions, I think that Kathy, I think you had asked about that, and I think we covered lots of the time. Trying to always use this approach. Use the approach of, you will have a little grab bag of phrases like me llamo or whatever, see, but try to always keep the language under control. If you let the language get out of control and you start seeing all these little words and you're ignoring them because you don't think that they're important, that's when everything is the same. And it's the same if it's an article, it's the same if it's a preposition. Now, this is not me saying that this is what you thought in particular, or what anyone else who requested it thinks in particular. But talking about prepositions, we'll talk about prepositions in further detail later on. Unfortunately, there is no better way to think about prepositions. It's the same as in English, in your own language of English. A preposition doesn't always mean the same. So what you need to know is two things. First, what verbs need those prepositions, and I outline those every time I explain them, but then also know what the prepositions mean in general, and yes, what they would translate to in English. That becomes helpful, especially if you look at the preposition in Spanish, like in, see, it's the same as in English, which comes from in Latin, see? So that is the way that I would approach it. But again, we're not going to cover articles and prepositions this time. We'll cover not prepositions, but articles in the next webinar in 2 weeks. In general, I'm going to try to keep them more concise. These are lessons that I'm learning from previous weeks. Also, this is the time that if we had a larger crowd, we will be having a Q&A like we did last week. And, we have 10 minutes to go. We would have run out of time to answer questions. But let me check if anybody has any question. Chicos, ¿tienen preguntas? You guys have any questions? Look. See. Questions. There is a little bit of a delay. It should be a shorter delay than last week, but okay, I don't see any questions. So and we only have 2 people, so I didn't expect many questions. Look at the percentage. People who had questions last time was maybe like less than 5%. So yeah. That would be much less than 1 person. So this time with 2 people. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, this video is going to become available on Spanish Hacks, and for the time being, it's going to be available to both free users who can audit the course, and also people who have purchased some of the courses, in particular, actually the flagship course, is the one that includes the webinars. It will be included there. The people who purchase the course are going to have access to it for as long as they have access to the course. It's usually 4 years at this time with the promotions, or in perpetuity if you purchased a lifetime subscription. But either way, you can always copy it and save it for yourself. I believe that the Spanish Hacks method is so good and so successful that you guys are going to decide to stick with it. So I don't care if you try to, if you sign up for a month and you copy all of it, because you're still going to be doing Spanish Hacks, and you're still going to be aware of how good the course is, and you're going to lose access to many of the resources with Spanish Hacks either way. So anyhow, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this webinar, and I'll see you inside the Spanish Hacks course, inside the Facebook group. And if you guys have any questions, just send me an email at diego@spanishhacks.life, and if it's related to this webinar, I will reply to it via email. If it's not, I'll probably use it as a topic for a following webinar. Which again, the webinars are going to be, we're not going to have 8 topics like we tried to do last time and we ran out of time, but we're going to do just 1 or 2 topics because I believe that that's all that we need. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one. Saludos. Nos vemos, chicos.